You know, we're down here on Memorial Day weekend, and I was going to use this rock. I brought it all the way from Wyoming last year, and we got it out around Barnum in Wyoming, just west of KC. And the red hills, everything is just red out there. And I got this beautiful red rock, and I thought I was going to, put it in the flower bed. Well, today I was going to put it in the flower bed, but here's what happens when you take certain things out of their element. That beautiful rock was just red sand, and with the humidity and the moisture here in the Midwest, it just turned it into sand. And so everything has its place in this world, and that's sort of what I say about that mineral licks and stuff for white-tailed deer. See, there's another one. This was another one I brought in. It was beautiful with moss and everything on it. And once you bring it into a different area, climate-wise, this is a dry, arid area that was rock, and now it's just powder. And the same way with the minerals that you're throwing on deer, you're creating something that's not natural, in my opinion. But this is not my opinion. This is real 101. Took a rock and it turned it into sand. So that's something. I mean, I thought I was going to be able to landscape with that red rock as a theme. It ended up being nothing. Oh, something to think about. Don't mess with Mother Nature. Well, here we are a year later, and this is the dam where we planted the Whitetail Institute clover. We have a few broadleaf weeds in there, not too many, but like I say, you can pull them right out. This clover needs mowed, but it's wet. We've had 1.5 inches rain in the last 2 days down here. But down in here, we got the chicory. This is a year later. So it's all growed in really, really thick. You remember we found those 2 little shed antlers right here, and it was cropped right down to the ground. So this is in some intense growth. And that's after fertilizing and reliming this spring with 624-24 and some pelletized lime on it. You can keep liming, bringing that soil up to 7. It's really encouraged to do so. Now that liquid lime that a lot of you guys are using, that's ineffective. Basically it goes down about that far, and it doesn't get the root system, and if you get heavy rains, it's diluted already. It just washes away. And I know they put a deer on the front and they call it a fancy name, but if that was the case, farmers would use that more so. Use your ag lime or your pelletized lime. You can't go wrong with those two. Those work. The other ones are gimmickry, and that's proven scientifically also. So that's just not my opinion. Anyhow, you can see how thick that grew in a year, and the resolve of it, how much browsing pressure, if Deb pans around there, remember that was all eaten down to the ground. And now it's, it's a foot high, and it needs to be mowed. But being as it's wet, I can't mow it. We just treated the pond with some crystal blue. This does no environmental harm whatsoever. And matter of fact, it makes your water cleaner, and it prevents the algae from growing on those small ponds, because what it does, it blocks out the sunlight. Also makes the pond look real blue. Now it doesn't take very much of this, so don't get carried away with it. If you want to try it, we start out with a 16-ounce cup, and now you can see how it's encroaching onto the pond surface. Doesn't harm the fish, doesn't harm the frogs, doesn't harm anything. It's completely safe for the environment. Plus, it keeps that algae off by blocking the sunlight and stops the weed growth, so the top of your pond doesn't look like a scumbag, by July, because that algae starts growing, and the next thing you come down, it looks like you got green snot on there. So that's the trick to keeping that off. You can buy this at any farm and home store. It's pretty expensive, but I think it's around $40 or $50 for a gallon, but it does the job. So something to keep in mind.
Yep, you can see the blue stuff. It's made its way around the pond. It hasn't got to the middle yet, but it hasn't been on there that long. And we've been down here putting out mulch and planting flowers, and you know, right there we thought, you know, if you didn't know, that was the direction where the deer was. The last time I videotaped this is about noon, and it's about 3 o'clock now, so it took that long, and it's all blue. So it's looking pretty good. Now I got a wheelbarrow full of mulch, because it takes a lot of mulch. Got 20 bags. Looks like the cart's gonna go to the pond.
Deb hard at work planting some petunias. Memorial Day weekend. We're going to take a walk about, see how the clover's doing. And I'm going to tell you right up front, it needs to be mowed. But it's been so wet here in the last week that I haven't been able to get down here to mow it. And you know, it's not going to hurt it any, but it needs to be mowed. And we'll walk down and take a survey. Here's some clover that was frost seeded, and you can see it grew in on these trails. I did this early March, and it's not up, you know, bloomed out. There's some old clover in there, but most of that was new clover that was broadcasted on going down that trail. And so we'll wander on down here. As you can see, there's all my trails that I've mowed. I've mowed them down over the years and frost seeded them on, and there's clover growing in there. So basically every trail you got has a food source on it, and that can be a good thing or a bad thing, because you know, it really disperses the herd, but it keeps the pressure off of them too from congregating into one small area. So it's just things to do. Like I say, you don't know how much of that clover is going to germinate, but if you put it on frost seed, it's a good chance that it'll come back. And here's that scraper we built, and you know, there's still some tracks in there. You know, they're not fresh, but it hasn't grown back in yet. But there again, the pin oak leaves are still on that. That's why I put those up there like that to hold the scent. And that limb's still live, as you see. It's getting a little dead out on this end, but it's mostly live. So we'll be putting a new limb on it there this fall. Yeah, we're down here in the bottoms. And once again, I can't do any mowing. I won't do any heavy mowing until the 1st of July, the last week of June. The fawn drop and the turkey eggs and all that. You can't, you know, we'll crop this out, get it all mowed down to where you can walk through it. But right now, mowing is off the table. You know, you don't want to be out there tearing up habitat, because that's what the new babies are seeking, is cover. And it's really thick in here. Here we are at the Missouri crossing. You know, we put this in here 5 years ago, and it's still held up pretty good. You know, it takes some maintenance, but it still lets you get a implement across this creek, and this creek can really get to running sometimes. Now what we're coming up on is that new field that we opened up 1st of April, last of March. And believe it or not, when I had this dirt soil tested, it was the best dirt on the property. It was a 6.5. I'd never had 6.5 dirt on this property. It was all 5.4 or lower. For some reason, and when we go up onto this next clover plot, the original clover plot, it was in that 5, but there's a 3-foot change in elevation. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to come in here and plant this in a fall food plot, and then next spring come in and go with fusion. I've elected to, I'll get it all weeded out and get something growing on it, and for the late fall, and then being all the heavy timber's cleared off. But you can see it's grown up pretty good in the weeds since the last time you've seen it. And so instead of rushing the situation, I elected just to let it go, and I can get in there the first end. Right at the beginning of next spring, I'm going to lime this and try to get it at a 7, which I don't have to bring it up that much with a 6.5, and so it ought to be pretty good. But like I say, there's about a 3-foot difference in elevation here from 6.5 to 5.4. And it's really amazing. The nutrients apparently must settle coming down off these hills, and this is a low spot, and it can get flooded. So apparently the nutrients are being washed into it, whereas where you're going to see this clover at, it doesn't get flooded, and so it was lacking. It was pretty acidic. And like, here's the incline right here, and I figure it's about, it might even be more than 3 foot. I was saying 3 foot. It could be 4 to 5 feet difference in elevation, just in changing of the pH. And this is going to be overgrown, and there again, I've got to get in here and get this mowed, and see the clover's all the seed. Now this was planted in 2011, and I got some grasses in here that I can knock down, but it's maintenance, 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 and I'm lacking it right now, but been so busy, you know, food plotting and working, and I've got more grass in here than I ever had, but I can get rid of it. But I gotta just have the time, and like I say, today I got the time, but it's too wet to mow. So we'll get it straightened out and come around, and you can see all these big clumps of grass in here. And they've just grown up in there since last year, but here's the culprit right here. They're going to seed, so hopefully I can get it set back with the rest. So just showing you how that came out. Pretty intense right now. Oh, I mean, that grass really grew, but I got a good stand of clover. I just got to get the grass in check. And like I said, this food plot right here was planted in 2011, the fall of 2011, and you still, oh, look at this. This is why you do not want to mow. Oh boy, I'm going to back out of here. Hi buddy. Oh boy, I hate that. I hate that. Now I almost feel like I kicked the Pope or something. Oh well, he won't go too far. That's why you don't mow. See, he held pretty tight, and you don't know how tight he would have held to the mower. But at least I had the camera on and got some live footage to share with my viewers of why you don't mow. That's another good reason I can't mow in here. I'd have to walk the field, I guess, and that would be a good option. Oh, I almost, I seen that stump. I did a jump. I thought, oh no, there's another one. Have to venture around in here. Hope I don't kick no babies up again. That puts a lot of stress on them. Not that the mama can't find them, but you just feel bad about doing that. An Achilles heel about leaving cameras out. Those ants are really attacking that. I hope it didn't screw the inside of it up. It really, really heavy infestation of ants on there. You don't have that when it's cold out. Yeah, these trails are growed in. But like I say, you can't do any mowing right now, because this is what we kicked up. That little guy or girl or whatever didn't know that's as close to the first human it's ever been to, and you were there right along with us. So that's a Memorial Day treat. We'll wander back to this year-old plot Now keep in mind we planted this on the first day of April in 2015, and we'll see what she looks like. And I know, like I say there again, I know it needs mowed. And for people asking, yes, I do lime my fields even after they're growing, because you're not going to put too much lime on it to make it alkaline, that's for sure. That would be going in the wrong direction. But you can treat it with a lime after it's grown. You don't tear it up, and it helps raise the pH or continue it. Now you can see there's been a lot of browsing going on in here. Probably kick up another little baby. And this was the results of my efforts, and you've seen them from the get-go. This is Memorial Day weekend 2016. A grass-free per se. It's got a couple weeds, but you can't expect that to be much better than that. Needs to be mowed. But other than that, that's what you can do if you do the proper preparation. So let's wander over here and get this card out of this camera. And here's something we can go over with. Always be observant. Keep your eyes open and your mind open. You see how this part of this field is shaded up now? It's late afternoon, and that's a good thing. Now in the morning, that's going to get the sun, and this area is going to get the shade, because the sun's coming from that direction. So it's going to hit this hard in the morning, give it a sun, and then that will come in at the shorter day of the sun. But it's all equal height. But people want to know if they can plant in shade. Yeah, you can plant in shade, and shade can be an ally, because like this field right here, it's keeping the intense afternoon sun, as the hottest sun, off of that clover. So you know it's getting about half a day, and then it goes into shade. And this was shaded up in the morning, and then it gets the sunshine in the afternoon. So shade is not as big an issue as some people think, especially with clover. But like I said, this food plot is, let's see, from April, that would be April, and this is the end of May. So this would be 13 months old right now, is what you're looking at. And half shade, half sun, late afternoon sun, early morning sun, late afternoon shade, which actually helps it. It keeps it cooler and keeps it from dehydrating just that much faster. The evaporation rate slowed down. And yes, there are a few broadleaf weeds in here, but those weeds right there you could pull out by hand. There's not that many in here. And but pretty much I would call this a weed-free plot. And if I had mowed it, that would set it back. But you've seen why we can't mow, and I keep going over that. You know, it's you could do more damage to wildlife than good. I can guarantee you that was a little fawn bed right there. That's just like the one that jumped out of there. So it was laying right here by this tall grass, but we didn't scare it out. But it's been there. Yeah, right here's my turkey blind, and I had a blind setting here and a camera right there. So we'll share, you know, if we had any turkeys on this trail. Like I say, right there was the blind, and the trail's right there. Camera's right here on this tree, which is about 4 yards from that blind. So if we have a parade of turkeys coming by here, we'll make a little note of that. Remember, they were walking right by that blind right there. We'll call that blind number 1. And there was the Browning camera. I've been using Browning cameras quite a bit. I'm not recommending anything. I've had pretty good luck with those, so that's just, they've been reasonably priced. So the last 4 or 5 cameras we pulled out have been Browning, so that says something about it. But anyhow, those turkeys could have been coming right down that trail. I was hoping to ambush them. Never hunted that blind once. Didn't have time. So this camera hunted it for me. I hope I had that camera turned on. I moved the switch. I don't know, maybe I moved it wrong, but I hope it was on all the time, because if it wasn't, wouldn't have filmed anything. Things you gotta remember. You see that tube down there? That tube used to be right here. That was the tube I crawled in and out the other end. Well, I'm sure more than one person's had their culvert washed away, and that got washed away last summer, a big downpour. So I'm gonna come in here. I'm gonna come in here and redo this crossing right here. Probably not put the tube in because there's too much water. But if I can level that out, cut this down, I can get up and down through that drainage ditch. But there's my tube down there, washed out high and dry. There's a critter right there. Going after that clover. It's probably got that's a mama rabbit. It's probably got a bunch of babies around there somewhere. Spring babies. And like I told you, it's not all about killing them. Sure in the hell ain't all about deer. It's about the overall habitat. And planting that clover lets everything have a more healthier diet. And now we've seen a fawn, we've seen a rabbit, and rabbit, I don't know how many families probably in the past fed off of rabbits. That was a mainstay in the American diet. Anyhow, in my family it was. Well, it is Memorial Day, so we better stop by an old friend's and let him know that he's still with us in spirit and in the wind. There you go, Irvin. Memorial Day 2016. Gone but not forgotten. You know, when I tell you I plant food plots for everything, I'm not jacking and jawing. I'm telling you all the fact. Now, honeybees are the pollinators. And I'm going to sneak up here and you're going to see for yourself the honeybees that are on that clover. They're in there buzzing and they're pollinating. And I'm trying to tell you, I don't care what you dumped on the ground, you ain't gonna do nothing for the honeybee with some kind of mineral lick. But there was honeybees all over in here. They was flying around, sort of boogered them up right now. But they were in there pollinating, and I just love to get them on there. But there's one right there, right down in there. See them flying around in there? That's your whitetail clover, that's your pollinators, that you giving back. That, you know, there he goes. I don't give a damn what you dump on the ground to stimulate antler growth. It ain't gonna attract no honeybee. Now we got the ants attracted on the cameras, we got the honeybees on the clover. That's being a good land steward. Not some dope deer that you know, well, you know my thoughts on that. But I just proved to you a point. All that clover, all that work, the smallest little insects, you're helping. But you ain't helping nothing but your ego by dumping dope deer in a pile and setting a camera up on it. You ain't helping nothing. That's my thought. And whether you like it or not, delete me, fight me, or do whatever you want to do, I just proved to you what I'm talking about. I'm here for the overall habitat. I do not target the mere white-tailed deer. Yeah, that what you just seen was the reason I plant food plots. I can hunt deer without food plots. I've showed that to you in a video before. But when I look around here and I see all these flowers blooming and the honeybees on the clovers and stuff, that's what you should be planting food plots. The deer will come on their own. You know, if you plant it, they will come. But don't judge your success solely on how many inches a deer had on its head. Judge on the overall impact that you did in your controlled environment and habitat. That's your reward. Not that you killed something with antlers on its head of some man-made up score. Because remember, nature didn't make that score. A group of men in New York come up with that scoring system. A fellow named Teddy Roosevelt was the instigator of that. And it had nothing to do with the hunter. It was just to show the decline of the big game animals in North America. Fortunately, it went the other way. Few things do when man get involved. But you just seen it with those honeybees on that clover. From the smallest of the small, the biggest of the big, everything feeds. We had a fawn, we had a rabbit, we had the honeybees. Folks, it don't get no better than that. And we got Mom up here fishing in the pond. So, hope you all have a good Memorial Day weekend. And try to do your best for the entire overall habitat. And don't target one specific animal. And like I said, it's just amazing. You catching any fish in there, Mama?
Yep. Caught about a 4-inch bass, which means those 2 bass that we threw in there.
Must have had babies.
Yep. So they're obviously both still in there.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's pretty cool.
Yeah. Like I said, we've helped everything from the frog life to the bees to the fish, everything. But it didn't come without a price. Look at that bluegill. I mean the crappie.
That's a bluegill.
Oh, yeah. I'm not a fisherman. I don't know. It's late in the day. It's
That's a nice one.
yeah. Yeah, a bunch of them you could make a frying pan full. It's Mom's a fisherman in the family. I don't have time to fish. But enjoyable day. And you've seen fish, you've seen fawns, you've seen rabbits, you've seen honeybees, all on the efforts of people getting out and giving back. And Mother Nature gives back right along with yourself. Our fake pet snake, Deb got him done. Looks pretty good laying there in the sunlight. He got looks pretty good. Well, I hope you enjoyed that walk. And what's more important, I hope you can see the results of doing things what I call doing them right. Not on the borderline of if. The more you put into it, the better off you're going to be. And you've seen some hellacious food plots that were really strong. And you've seen them from, now they're 13 months old. They've been through 2 seasons, growing seasons, 15 and 16. And you can see the results. You were right there with me. There's no hype. I'm not pushing nobody's product. What I am pushing is hard work. Don't be shortcutting. Don't look for shortcuts. Every manufacturer somewhat is out there trying to push something to take away the labor. Well, folks, in certain things in life, labor has to be there. You have to put these hands in motion and take it to the extreme. Everything can't just be a new idea. Inventions, the new inventions are the mother of laziness. They're looking for an easy way to do something with maximum amount of results. Well, I'm here to tell you right now as a non-typical Norwalkian and Don Mealey, I never got anything out of life without using these 2 hands to the maximum. And I've got good results out of doing that. So, put your back to the plow, focus on your subject and see it through to the end, and don't look for shortcuts. Well, that's it for the Memorial Day rant.